Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I'm a business growth strategist who help business owners grow, scale, cut costs, and increase profit. And today, I have an awesome guest. He's an entrepreneur, SME Business Growth Specialist, author, speaker, and the founder and principal consultant at Listen Innovate Grow. He empowers CEOs of service-based SMEs with buyer-driven strategies and action plans to drive business growth and acquire and retain business clients. Welcome, Michael Haynes, and thank you for being on my show.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome, mate. I'm sure it's going to be awesome for everybody watching and listening today. So you're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us about you and your journey.
Sure. So my name is Michael Haynes, and as you've said, I'm an SME Business Growth Specialist. So my focus and passion is about working with, SME CEOs, business owners of those service-based businesses, be it professional service firms like your accountants, law firms, technology companies, education training companies. I work with catering services. So any of those businesses that are looking to build and grow by acquiring other business clients. So I'm your SME B2B specialist in a nutshell. So that's really my focus and passion, because I truly believe that the world of B2B presents massive opportunities for entrepreneurs, for business owners, for SMEs, if they understand some of the dynamics and really know how to navigate the landscape through B2B. In terms of my journey, how I got here, so I started off, well, first of all, you can tell by my accent, I'm not a born and bred Aussie, from Toronto, Canada. I've been here in lovely Australia in the city of Sydney for almost 21 years. Oh no, almost 22 years now. Wow, I'm losing track. And so I've been here for almost 22 years. And I initially started off in big corporate. So working in corporate roles, helping them in terms of how they can be market and customer driven. Did that in a number of roles, working in financial services, working at one of the big consulting firms, a telecommunications company, and that's working at Telstra wholesale. And it was in that last role where I really got into the whole B2B space. Then in 2010, after taking a bit of a career break and volunteering in South America, working in an after-school program in an indigenous village, learning Spanish, came back after 6 months and set up my own consulting business, working with SMEs in terms of how they can, acquire, retain, and grow those business clients, particularly those that are interested in acquiring larger business clients. And my focus is really about not just being customer-driven, but to succeed in B2B, being buyer-driven. So I work with companies in terms of understanding the market opportunities, where they should be focusing on, which industries, which customers, understanding what those customers, the decision makers, who they are, what are their priorities, and how they buy. And then working with them to develop those strategies and action plans to acquire, retain those clients, grow them, and then often working with them to help them as they're working through some of those key projects and initiatives to achieve those objectives.
Awesome, mate. Love that. Powerful story and so much experience, and now how it's come to fruition in how you're helping businesses grow now as well. And you mentioned obviously early on that you obviously worked in some of these big businesses, like I know it's like CBA, Accenture, Telstra wholesale, like you mentioned, and Telstra was the specific one that you said you really got into that space. So do you want to maybe share a little bit more of those learnings, or or key things you took out of that, I guess, that has now moved you forward into how you're helping businesses?
Sure. Great question. So, one of the key dynamics in B2B, lots of companies talk about we've got to be market driven, we've got to be customer driven. One of the key characteristics of B2B and business to business, irrespective of whether you're a technology company selling into other businesses, you're a catering service selling into companies, irrespective of what kind of organization you are, typically when you're selling into another organization, there are multiple decision makers involved in the decision-making process. So there are those key decision makers that make that yes or no go decision. Then there are those that are influencers that have input into the decision making. Your activity, a lot of your go-to-market, your marketing activities, your client acquisition activities really have to be focusing on those decision makers. We need to know who they are, what are their priorities, objectives, outcomes they want to achieve, and how they buy, because that will really determine a lot of what you do in terms of your marketing, your sales, your client engagement, your go-to-market. And it's that element of how business buyers buy which is something that has changed dramatically over the past 12 to 15 months, that we as service providers operating in business to business have to be cognizant of and adaptive to in order to achieve our objectives.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love that. Really powerful stuff. And I know, in the last few years, you also co-authored a book, with a good friend named Listen Innovate Grow, which is like your business. So do you want to maybe, share a little bit about that and maybe some of the key things that we can get out of that book that can help us as well?
Absolutely. So the book, Listen, Innovate, Grow. So Listen, Innovate, Grow, the reason why myself and my co-author, Gareth Chandler, we chose that title, because Listen, Innovate, Grow are the 3 key activities that you need to undertake if you want to acquire, retain those business clients and ultimately grow your company. And the book is about how do you do that listening, innovating, and growing in a business-to-business context for startups and for small, medium businesses. So it's really written for our people, Athin. And so that's really what the book is all about. So I'll go through really quickly what those 3 key activities entail, which need to be done on an ongoing basis. This is not about doing a one-off project. These 3 activities of listening, innovating, and growing really need to underpin how every SME operates. So listening is all about getting your depth of understanding in terms of the industries, markets, customers, and buyers that you are serving. So really having that in-depth understanding on those 3 different levels. So understand the industries you're going into, understanding the markets and the different geographic markets that you're going into, what's happening with those industry verticals, what's happening with respect to your competitors, understanding the customers that you're going after, and not just understanding at an organizational level. So if you want to get into CBA or Qantas or some another fellow SME organization, but understanding who are those decision makers. So for example, if you're an IT firm and you're trying to sell into the IT division within, we'll say Commonwealth Bank, is understanding who are those key decision makers, those making the decisions, those influencing the decisions, and what are those priorities. Because that really gives you clarity as by where to focus. So by having that listening and understanding the industries, the markets, the customers, and the decision makers you're ultimately seeking to acquire and serve, it gives you that real clarity of focus. So that's all about listening. Innovating is I'm talking about business innovation. So what are those new introductions and or improvements that you need to be making to respond to the needs of those industries, markets, customers, and decision makers that you're targeting? And so I'm talking about business innovation, and there can be 5 kinds of innovation. It could be around the products that you're offering, the services that you're offering. It could be organizational innovation. So that could be about potentially outsourcing or getting into joint ventures, partnerships, collaborating with your suppliers, with your customers. Process innovations, what are the systems and processes that you're using, as well as marketing innovation. And when I'm talking about marketing innovation, there's some very specific B2B strategies that many SMEs should be using in terms of influencer marketing, account-based strategies, for example, B2B customer experience strategies as well that will help you achieve your objectives. So innovating is determining which of those 5 different levers, different types of innovations, in order to really respond to customer needs. And then the third element, grow, is all about how you grow your company, achieve the growth, and manage and maintain that growth. So we talk about growth pathways. Are you going to go after new customers, new markets, new offerings, for example, going after market share or combinations thereof? So those are the different ways to grow, growth pathways. As your company is growing, you're going to ultimately need to have change management. So as you're going from a 10-person company to 30 people to 100 people, and you're going into new markets, new geographies, how are you managing the change as you're getting more people, more complexity within your organization? So managing the changing that is occurring as your company is growing and evolving. There's also the elements of managing your finances as well, because often growth strategies need to be funded. So you've got to invest to grow. So how are you managing your P&L, revenue and expenses? How are you funding your growth? So those are some of the elements of growing your business. So listen, innovating, growing. So continuing to understand the needs of your industry, markets, customers, and buyers. Innovate is how do you respond to those needs, priorities, and requirements of those customers, decision makers you're targeting. And then grow is how you're going to go about growing the business. So those are the 3 elements that companies need to be doing on an ongoing basis.
Awesome, mate. What an answer there. And I love the detail and everything. Sounds like an amazing book. And then, yeah, how we can really expand in all of these areas to grow our business as well. And let's get into a little bit more detail here. And you're saying buyer driven a lot now, right? And,
Yeah.
there's customer driven as well. So do you want to maybe just, I guess, people that are a bit unaware or something, I guess what the differences are with that and how we can focus on it better as well?
Okay, let's try to put a live example. So for example, I just have a new client, a project management consulting firm, and they provide project management consulting solutions. And so they're targeting different customers in terms of different kinds of companies. So they're looking at some of the banks, for example, is one of their key customers. So it's not just enough to understand the organization, Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, and understanding the organization in terms of its overall structure, the overall objectives, but we need to understand with the context of this particular project management consulting firm, my client, who is targeting the decision makers that are involved in project management in the organization. So we need to identify who are those specific people. In this particular case, so I just had a workshop with them 2 days ago, the likes of their, the general managers, your heads of technology are two of their key decision makers that they're going to be targeting. Those are two of their key buyers. So in terms of developing their growth strategies and how they're going to acquire more of these banks, financial institutions, we need to understand what are the priorities, not just of what the overall company is trying to achieve, but that general manager, chief technology officer, who are two of their key stakeholders. We need to understand what are their specific priorities that they're trying to achieve within the organization. And how do they go about making decisions? What do they use in terms of tools? What are they looking at? What are they reading? What are they using to make their decisions? Because that's going to define the marketing strategy, the marketing and sales strategy we're going to be using to acquire those organizations by meeting the needs of those decision makers, which in this example with the project management firm, it's going to be the GM and your chief technology officers. So does that help clarify the distinction in terms of the overall organization and then those buyers that are involved in making that yes or no go decision to use the services of that particular client?
Yeah, awesome, mate. Thank you. And I love the example and thinking about positions and stuff, everybody, so they can start thinking about, okay, who are these people in the areas that I want to be focusing on in that space? So that's awesome. And I know your background's in strategic marketing, right? So do you want to maybe talk a little bit about marketing? Because obviously that's one of the key levers, right, in what you're talking about here. And a lot of people are probably looking at, getting leads and other things like that. Like, where do we get stuff from in there? So do you want to maybe delve a little bit deeper into strategic marketing and how we can help, market, to our prospects as well?
Okay, so so my background, a lot of my training is in strategic marketing. Athin, I have a love-hate relationship with the term marketing. I do not market myself as a strategic marketing consultant. I am a business growth consultant. Reason being because I try to very much practice what I preach, and a lot of decision makers, be it SME CEOs and even those in big corporate, they have a very siloed view of marketing. They think it's advertising, they think it's social media, they think it's brand. True strategic marketing is about being data-driven, it's about being insight-driven, it is about being customer-driven. And so it's about doing that listening, having that depth of understanding of your industries, your markets, your customers, your competitors, understanding all of that. And you get that through a range of activities, but having that depth of understanding, doing that analysis, that understanding, to understand the needs of your customers, where are your growth opportunities? So that is really what true strategic marketing is, because having that depth of understanding, doing that listening on those three levels, again, gives you clarity on where to focus. Who are your primary customers, markets that you should be serving? Where are those growth opportunities? And then in my view, strategic marketing is also how you meet the needs of your customers. And that's where you have to operate holistically, functionally across your organization. Again, leveraging the different levers, which might be around how do you deliver through your products, your services, your customer service and support. It could be through your marketing activities, your processes. So that's where you start leveraging innovation, business innovation, to meet the needs of your market, and you're making sure you're monitoring and measuring how those initiatives that you're undertaking are meeting the needs to help attract, acquire, retain, and hopefully grow those business clients and grow the business. So it's really about being customer-driven, insight-driven, market driven, and it's about leveraging that insight, that data, that depth of understanding, which will really drive everything that you're doing across a number of different dimensions. So that's the key to really how you're going to be a successful organization in terms of driving growth and knowing how to do so in a business-to-business context, bearing in mind those complexities of selling to multiple decision makers, which is one of the key characteristics of business-to-business.
Yeah, love it, mate. And yeah, what gets measured gets managed, as they say, and then understanding all of those key levers will ensure that, yeah, you can really move forward in that way. So that's awesome. And yeah, let's delve into a little bit more around, I guess, the sales side of things, right? Because, you know, we've got these decision makers, these buyers, right, that we know we need to connect with. And, you know, there's probably different ways. Maybe you're finding them on LinkedIn. Maybe you're, you know, using relationships, you know what I mean? Like to obviously get into these places. And yeah, it can be a timing thing because, you know, they don't always want to buy like the first time you speak to them and things like that. So do you want to maybe talk a little bit about, you know, the sales side of things and how we can sort of increase our conversions, I guess, and not just, you know, fall off the wayside as well?
Okay, and so great question. And so again, we need to be stepping back and looking from the view of those decision makers. So to use my project management consulting client example, we need to be understanding the decision makers. It all starts from being very buyer driven. So again, we need to understand in terms of, we need to understand who are those kinds of decision makers that we're targeting, what are their priorities, and how they buy. And so in terms of how they buy, you know, when we're targeting, you know, senior leaders, business owners, CEOs, they have a lot of priorities and objectives that they're trying to achieve. So we need to understand where are they going for what I call AIR, advice, insights, and recommendations. Because your business buyers, those decision makers, they're doing a lot of their own independent self-research and education on how they're going to be meeting their objectives and moving forward. So they may be, you know, reading white papers. They may be becoming part of advisory groups, online communities, mastermind groups, listening to podcasts such as this, where they can really get the deep dive into some key areas of interest. They may be going to certain events, reading certain publications. So it's very important that you understand who your decision makers are and what are the activities. Who are they talking to? What are they reading? Where are they going? What groups are being members of in order to get the advice, insights, recommendations to help them move forward, because that is what they do, a lot of that independent self-research. Studies have been done and shown that with your typical decision maker, 80% of them will have done their own independent self-research and education before they want to talk to any sales representative. So even if you meet someone at a networking event, they're going to be doing their homework. They might read a white paper. They might check out your website. They might be going to certain events, reading certain publications. They're undertaking a lot of different activities to build up their own ideas of what they need, evaluating different solutions. And so it's about being visible, providing the right kinds of tools in terms of what they use, and being visible where they go for information. That's really the key. And that's where the role of marketing comes in terms of having the understanding of who those decision makers are, what are their priorities, and how they buy, and make sure we have the right kinds of tools that they might use, which could be testimonials, case studies, white papers. They might be attending certain events. They might be members of certain groups, and making sure we're providing those tools and having those visibility where they go for information. That's really the key. And then eventually your target clients, your prospects will at some point initiate interest and want to have a discussion with you. And then that's where sales will need to come in to continue that engagement and discussion, and really work in a consultative way to really demonstrate how you're going to help them achieve their objectives.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And you know, I know one thing, you know, that I've done in the past with, you know, with some companies that I've gone in that are quite big is, you know, how do we provide some value first, right? As well, sometimes, so that we can actually showcase it. Because one thing's obviously showing the testimonial or something, but is there ways to do that? So is that something that you think can be valuable as well? Like, is showing that, how can we go, hey, you know, can I do some work with you pro bono, or like, you know, something like that to potentially get in? What are your thoughts around that topic?
Again, I think what the key is to really be understanding again, your decision makers and how they go about making what's on their radar, and how are they going about making their decisions. So it could be they may have it. So for example, if growth is a key initiative for them and they're trying to get into certain markets, and let's say you're a specialist consultant, a strategy consultant, for example, you might be providing them with white papers and insights around those industries that they're looking to enter in, looking to disrupt, to provide them some advice, recommendations, insights to help them with their own decision making. So it's really about enabling them with some of the things that they use as part of their own decision making and part of the activities that they're doing. So again, it's really understanding what kinds of information and tools they like to use, and then providing them accordingly. So for example, with technology companies, it could be around potentially providing diagnostics and assessments. That could be something that they may want to look at. As part of the decision-making, it could be that they may want to speak to other clients that have worked with you as a service provider so they can understand the experiences that they've had. So again, it's all about understanding who your decision makers are and what are their priorities and challenges and what are the kinds of tools and or types of information that they tend to use. And it's go about proactively providing those where they seek for information. So for example, quite often technology companies often, many senior leaders are parts of industry associations because they're listening to they're attending events, reading white papers. So maybe that's where you want to have visibility to be targeting your target group and providing those providing white papers and articles on those topics that are of importance to them. Another example could be that they might be members of, let's say, they might be reading certain publications. So for example, going back to my project management consulting client, there are some specific industry publications that often decision makers are using. And my client and I, we were just talking about some of the articles and a new white paper they're going to be putting out in order to help those GMs and those CIOs with some of those key strategic priorities that they have on their radar. Using that same example again, my client is going to be conducting some breakfast forums, inviting some of these senior leaders to roundtable sessions where they're presenting some of the research in terms of some of the new capability requirements within the sphere of project management and discussing some other issues. So again, it's all around being based in your activities around the decision makers you're going after and the kinds of activities and tools that they are using as part of the decision making and enabling that. So it's really about enabling the buyers with the resources that they need to make decisions, to give them ideas and advice, and to help them connect the dots.
Yeah, love it, mate. Really powerful. Thanks for those examples. And I guess one thing to delve a little bit deeper that's coming up is about community, right? Like a lot of people want to be parts of communities and things like that. And can we create a community around, like, our business and things like that, so that we can, for our own clients or other people, that want to come in with that to engage. So yeah, what are your thoughts around that about, I guess, what's happening in the market today and building a community as well?
Great question. So what I've been observing and noticing is that there is a big need amongst senior leaders now. What they're really looking for, again, is those advice, insights, and recommendations, how to take the business forward. Because a lot of those typical questions I get coming to me is, Michael, we want to grow the business. Where are those priority opportunities we should be focusing on? How should we grow? And so senior decision makers, senior leaders, they're often looking for ideas and advice. They want to be able to talk to their own peers, whether it be in their industry or in other industries, to understand what they've done, understanding their experiences, getting access to thought leaders and experts. And so there is a big need now, there's a big desire to become part of groups where they can share experiences, share ideas and advice, recommendations. And so a lot of, there's a big attraction, a big need to be members of communities. It might be bigger online community groups. Many senior leaders like to join smaller groups, often referred to as masterminds. So these are smaller groups that meet quite regularly and often very much peer-to-peer to help each other come up with new ideas, bounce off ideas, share experiences, get ideas, get recommendations. So the notion of community is very powerful, and it's something that in B2B, I think more companies should be looking to do as a way to really be delivering value on an ongoing basis and a way to gain reach, visibility, and build themselves as an authority, as the go-tos within their respective industries. So it's something that senior leaders are very much needing and wanting, because they don't want to be sold to. The whole show up and throw up, I'll connect with you on LinkedIn, and then 5 minutes later, try to get on that discovery call, or, I'm trying to make that pitch. People don't have time for that. They don't want that, but they do want to be able to engage with peers and getting access to thought leaders and exchange ideas, experiences, get recommendations. And so being able to provide the opportunity to do that, to ask questions and get that diversity of thought, insight, and perspective is highly, highly sought after. So I think there's an opportunity for us as B2B providers to try to look at what are ways that we can create communities in order to engage and deliver value to our current clients, our prospective clients, that can really help them currently, but also in terms of moving forward as well.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love that. And being a service provider, right? We can have multiple services, that we can offer, or multiple components, even, right, to what we're offering with our services. So, do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about the strategic aspect of that, and maybe how we can leverage that a little bit more to create a powerful offering, right? To make it enticing for people to want to work with us as well.
Yes. So in terms of creating a comprehensive solution, that's something, again, that I often work with clients with, in terms of, and it all goes back to understanding the needs of your customers, and then how to build out the appropriate value, how you can best service their requirements. So I've worked with consulting type or companies, specialist consulting companies. For example, our project management consulting client, we're looking at some of the different offerings. They have capabilities in a number of different areas around the assessment and some of the strategy development and project management planning. So that's something that's highly sought after by their decision makers, but then they often want implementation support. So crafting an offering that really is meeting multiple needs of your target customers. So think about areas in terms of not just your core product and service offering, but can you provide training? Can you provide reporting? Is there an opportunity to provide insights and research as to what's going on within that industry, within those markets? Other things may be in terms of how can you provide opportunities for your executives within that customer group. So those senior leaders within your client base, are there certain needs that they may want to have around having things like roundtables and education and training that you're able to provide to them? So it's really thinking out of the box in terms of the different kinds of things that you may want to be providing, such as training. And some of the key areas are reporting, training, consulting, your senior level executive engagement, additional service and support. So using, for example, an IT example, you might have certain support levels in terms of how you're going to respond to issues, problems, and complaints. You might have certain service levels that you might have for some of your top tier customers who really have very high level service requirements. So those are some of the areas that you may want to be looking at in terms of how you can provide additional value to your customers, to your clients. One other thing you also want to be looking at, and what I'm seeing a need for by many senior leaders, is access. They want to have access to more service and support, access to expertise. So can you incorporate access, whether it be assistance, supports or thought leadership expertise, as part of your offering that you're going to be providing to your customers?
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love that unpacking and how we can really, make it even more powerful and meet multiple needs. I think it was a really powerful takeaway.
And one just element I would add to that: when you're trying to be looking to build comprehensive offerings, you really want to be thinking about it again in terms of your customers' needs at both the buyer level and decision maker level. And the key to being able to where you can find areas that are of value to your clients, but may not require a lot of effort in terms of what you need to be doing to provide that additional training or that reporting, for example, then that's really good, because then you're able to roll that out at scale with ease, with minimal effort on your end, but it's delivering tremendous value to your client. So it's really, again, all about understanding your customer, understanding their needs and what they value, and then where can you be building that value as a comprehensive offering from your core products and services, and then some of these other elements that I suggested, such as access reporting, consulting, training, engagement, these other elements that you can be building in that is of high value to your customers as well, and preferably, hopefully not requiring too much additional effort on your part as a service provider.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Thanks for that extra distinction on how we need to focus on those areas as well. And, we're talking a lot about strategy, right? And, but it can be useless without execution, right? At the same time, we've got to be taking action. We can have all the great strategies, but, you got to take action. So, and I know that a lot of people may find this a bit challenging sometimes because, people got a lot of stuff on and things like that. So we want to, be open to change and doing new things. So do you have some tips or something, or maybe some ways that we can be more effective, I guess, with our, execution and taking action with new strategies as well?
Sure. A couple of tips I often use with my clients is that, okay, you'll develop your strategy, and it shouldn't be something that is overly lengthy. So it should be fairly condensed. You shouldn't be this, 50-page PowerPoint deck. I believe strategy should be able to boil down to, and identify what are going to be those 3 to 5 max priority initiatives, action items that you're going to want to focus on. I typically go for top 3. So based on our understanding of the market, the customers, our priorities, what are going to be those 3 key initiatives that are going to have the most impact in terms of achieving our objectives. So identifying what those initiatives are, like I said, 3, 5 max, but I generally go with top 3, particularly when we're talking about SMEs, who are time and resource poor, and then working out what are the actions that really need to take place. So I am big on producing the action or the battle plan and bringing the appropriate people together in order to kick off that piece of work, which might be around developing a new solution. It might be developing a customer client engagement program that we're going to be having, let's say, decision maker forums with some of our key top customers as examples. So you work out what are the initiatives you're going to be focusing on, develop your action plans, bring the appropriate people in, and then I'm very big on that you have regular check-ins in terms of the work in progress that you're working on those key initiatives. Doing it at least monthly, and then also having a quarterly review and reset to see how you're tracking over the quarter, anything that's new that's come up, and what tweaks we might need to be making to those priorities and initiatives. So getting everything to an action plan stage, I generally say top 3, have a detailed action plan and regular meetings and work in progress checks, and that quarterly review and reset, and of course that end of year as well. I think those are some of the key practices that you want to be doing as part of your execution. Yeah,
love it, mate. Thanks for sharing those tips there as well. And coaching and mentoring's been powerful for me in my business, and I'm sure it has been for you. So do you want to maybe share a little bit about your experience with coaching, mentoring for yourself, and what it's helped you to achieve as well?
Yeah, so I'm very big on practicing what I preach. You can work in a business as an independent sole trader, a solopreneur. You can work for yourself, you can't work by yourself. To build and grow a business, you are going to have your team around you, and part of that is having your advisors to mentor you, coach you, and be able to take that objective third-party view. Because how I can look at your business, someone else's business, I can't look at my own business at the same way of that degree of objectivity and that degree of clarity, because Listen Innovate Grow is my company, it is my baby. So you do need to have those independent, those advisors to be able to provide that third-party neutral view, so to speak, and to give you some fresh perspective. And you also need to be continually building your skills as well. So I believe big time on having people to help you build the skills that you need, whether it's to take your brand to the next level and help you to work out how you can be positioning yourself in the marketplace. It could be around developing certain skill sets, specifically be around marketing, sales, strategic development as well. So mentoring is very important, and I have a couple of coaches that I work work with. I have one key main business advisor who I work with on a regular basis, but then I have engaged subject matter experts for, I'm developing a mastermind program. So there's Karen Greenstreet in the US. I work with her for for the mastermind element of things. In terms of other elements around PR, there's been other PR consultants that I've engaged with to advise me around brand building and PR, etc. So building a business, if you want to build and grow your business, to build and grow yourself, that whole getting advice, external advice and mentoring, it's an investment. It's not cheap, but it makes substantive inroads in how you build and grow yourself personally and your business as well.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Completely agree with that. You know, it wouldn't be where I am as well with coaches and mentors and people advising me. And we can try, but it'd probably take us 5 to 10 times as long, you know, without them. So we're not here going to live forever, likely. So we've got to get there as quickly as possible in this life to get to where we want to be faster. So love that, mate, as well. And, you know, a lot of people talk about, you know, all these things that we've got to be doing in business. But I guess there's probably a lot of mistakes, you know, that people are doing right at the same time. So do you want to maybe share some of the biggest mistakes that you're seeing people are doing in their businesses as well?
Some of the mistakes, I think couple of things. One, trying to do too many things all at once. They've got lots of ideas. And so there's a whole bunch of initiatives that they're trying to undertake all at the same time. And that's particularly challenging for, you know, SMEs who are, you know, limited resources in terms of financial and often in terms of, you know, human resources in terms of their people as well. So again, it's about making sure you have that, have some prioritization. And that goes back to having a plan. So making sure you have a clear growth strategy where you're very clear on your objectives and where are those key priority growth opportunities in terms of the industries, markets, and customers that you're focusing on. So having a plan, having prioritization is very important. So that's one element. I would also say not understanding our potential customers, those B2B buyers, those customers, not doing enough listening at that level is something that is often not done at all or not done enough. And I think it's very important that you make that as part of how you operate your business, that you're periodically engaging with your key clients, your current clients, as well as some of your prospects as well, through whether it be workshops, some depth interviews, to be doing that listening to understand where they're at, where they're looking to go, what are their priorities, what are the shortcomings, what are they having challenges with. It's very important that you're getting that you're doing that listening and getting that feedback and understanding, and you should be doing that on a semi-regular basis. And I'm not talking about doing surveys, I'm talking about having that meaningful qualitative types of discussions, which can be done in a variety of formats. You know, you might hold breakfast forums, roundtables, doing workshops, depth interviews, but having that depth of understanding, that listening is very important because that will give you the clarity and focus of everything that you need to be doing. So those are some of the key things, some key examples of where I've seen businesses they need to be focusing in on in terms of missteps or things that they're not doing.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Thank you for that. It's definitely helps us to, because sometimes we can't see these things. Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. So thank you for sharing it. And I guess, you know, we a lot of the time we talk about all the great things that happen in our business and how we're helping people, but not everyone talks about the failures or the challenges that pop up. And there's normally, you know, I'm sure you can agree, it's like a you know, bumpy road, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
You do want to maybe share you know, a decent failure or a challenge or something that's come up for you, and then how you've had to overcome that at the same time, you know, to keep moving forward as well.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One, when I started off early in the business in 2011, I was trying to do everything myself. So that was a big failing of mine, which I I tried to do everything. And no one is good at everything. And so, and what I couldn't do or couldn't do well tend to not get either not done well or not get done at all. And that can be quite problematic. Like for me, I'm not the most technical person. So with the marketing end of things, you know, with the managing the email list and using MailChimp and all that, I am absolutely rubbish at that stuff. And that was something I was struggling with. You do need to recognize where the weaknesses are, and you need to sometimes invest to, to plug those weaknesses. So I got a marketing coordinator who now she does all of that. So I'll give her the brief of what needs to go out in terms of whatever I'm putting out on social media or what new content I'm creating. And then Anna goes and makes it happen. And it's such a game changer when you are getting the right people to work on some of those elements of the business that you're not good at, you may not have time for, so that you can really focus in on your core competencies, your zone of genius, in whatever you products, services that you provide. That's a big game changer. So that was, I would say, that was one of my big missteps. It took a little while for me to kind of recognize that, yeah, you got to sometimes get people to support and help in some of those areas. And also with that, getting the right business mentoring advice as well. That's also been another learning. Another challenge has been that I've had to do a bit of pivoting along the way in terms of who I've been targeting. Initially after I wrote the book, Listen, Innovate, Grow, I was doing a lot of work across startups and small, medium businesses. And I was doing a lot of work with international startups through some of the federal government international programs. Then COVID hit, the international program got shut pretty much the same day that the Prime Minister closed the borders. And so I ended up having to do a bit of a pivot and in terms of how I was going to be supporting startups and really turning my whole business and focus to SMEs specifically. Now I'm looking at maybe making some minor pivots again within the services that I'm going to be focusing on. So the challenge has been being responsive to what you're hearing and seeing in the market and adjusting accordingly. So I've had to make some pivots over the past couple years, over the past 18 months in terms of my focus and how I'm also doing my targeting and reaching. Has been something, because I've noticed a lot of change in B2B in decision makers' behaviors. So I have been very much modifying my approach in terms of doing a lot more speaking engagements and tapping into some of the ways in terms of how I'm seeing decision makers involving where they're going for information and how they're doing their educating and their buying.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I love that, and really powerful. How we can understand all those different areas, and then markets change, right? Like everybody, you can't just keep doing the same thing all the time in business, because eventually you're probably going to go downhill if you don't innovate and change. So love the pivoting there, and how you've continued to reinvent yourself, I'm sure, in the business in multiple ways as well. So yeah, jam-packed value here, mate, and awesome session today. And I guess as we're wrapping up, one question that I love to ask at the end is, what one key piece of advice would you give to all of the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
One key piece of advice I would say is to listen. Talk to your customers, some of your prospects, some of your potential referral partners, to find out where they're at now, where they're looking to go, what are their challenges. Have those discussions. It doesn't have to be very long. You can do it by a phone. Now we're doing face-to-face, whether Zoom. Record those conversations, because by doing those conversations, you will unpack some nuggets that will help you. It might be seemingly very, very minor, but you will get some clear insights that will help you make those right modifications that you need to be doing with your business. I myself, as we're approaching mid-year, I'm going to be undertaking that exercise myself in terms of, tapping in and talking to some of my clients, some of my prospects, and some of the people that I work with as referral partners, to be making sure I have an understanding of what's going on, because markets are changing, the behaviors and requirements are changing, and they're changing very rapidly, and they're changing faster than the thought leaders can put out their white papers and have their webinars and stuff. Things are changing very, very quickly. So having those coal-face discussions is very, very important.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love it. Powerful stuff there. And yeah, we connected through our networks. I learned about your awesome journey from growing company in Canada to then moving to Australia, and getting into strategy and business growth, being a specialist, and all the other amazing things that you're helping with and advising awesome people. You're an awesome guy, and I'm sure you continue to empower CEOs of service-based SMEs with buyer-driven strategies. I'm very grateful that we connected, and I look forward to working with you in the future. So, Michael, how can people find you, get in contact with you?
Sure. So first place, you can go to my website, which is listeninnovategrow.com. So listeninnovategrow, all one word.com. The second place is connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm regularly putting out lots of content there as well, which I'll be doing again as we're approaching mid-year already. So listeninnovategrow.com and or on LinkedIn. Always happy to connect with folks and have a conversation and see how I can help them, empower them to succeed in the world of B2B, because I truly believe for us SMEs, B2B is the place to be.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Definitely connect with Michael. He is an awesome guy, as you've learned from today, and very knowledgeable too. So, and then thank you to everyone for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. If you want to grow, scale, cut costs, and increase profit in your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. And I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way we know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.